An 84-year-old woman is believed to have been taken against her will, and the public messaging so far has created more confusion than clarity. Good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Blangiforti, and this is Truth Investigations in Criminal Behavior. And tonight, we're covering the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of the Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, an active case that authorities believe involves her being taken from her home against her will. Now, this is an active investigation, and I'm not here to speculate. I'm not here to invent theories. I'm not here to sensationalize or exploit a family's crisis. I'm here to do two things, and that's lay out what's publicly confirmed as accurately as possible and explain from a command level investigative perspective what law enforcement is likely doing and why they can't release everything immediately. And yes, I'm also going to discuss something that matters, and that's leadership, communication, and crime scene management. Now, I've been critical of press conferences in the past. I did an entire episode on the Brown University case because in major investigations, messaging is part of leadership. It's not optional, it's essential, especially in high-profile investigations. Let's start with what's confirmed in public reporting. Authorities say that Nancy Guthrie was last seen at or near her home in the Catalina foothills area near Tucson, Arizona, around Saturday night, January 1st. Now, multiple outlets are reporting it was at approximately 9:30 p.m. She was reported missing after she didn't show up for church the following day, prompting concern and a response that escalated quickly. Law enforcement has stated that they believe she was taken from her home against her will, using language like kidnapped, abducted, or otherwise forcibly taken. Now, the home was treated as a crime scene based on what investigators observed there. On the evidence side, there's public reports that DNA, biological evidence was identified at the scene, and the sheriff has referenced evidence collection while still withholding specifics for investigative reasons. The FBI is assisting, and their assistance is described more as technical and analytical support, while the local agency remains the lead. And that's normal. It's exactly what you would expect in a high-profile case with time sensitivity, and this is certainly a time-sensitive case. We also have reporting that the situation is very urgent because Nancy is described as a vulnerable adult with medical needs, and officials have emphasized that this time is critical. She's on medication. She needs that medication. As of the most current reporting, authorities have said there is no publicly identified suspect or person of interest, although, as usual, there are already rumors out there, which I'm not going to talk about or spread further unless they become confirmed. What I am going to do is explain what all this means from an operational standpoint, an investigative standpoint, and then we're going to talk about the messaging issues that are affecting the public's confidence. Now, people hear FBI involved and they think the FBI takes over. And that's usually not how it works. Now, in a case like this, the local sheriff's office stays in command and the FBI provides resources, analytical support, technical support, digital work, and that type of coordination. Now, here's what I would expect is happening behind the scenes, generally in cases like this. First, they're going to do a timeline reconstruction. So they're building a minute-by-minute timeline, the last confirmed contact, the last known movements, when the home was last secure, when anything changed. Now, in missing persons cases in general, do you know where the search starts? Right in the home, even if the person reporting it is living there with the person who's reported missing. Second thing they're doing, video canvas and looking for any license plate data that they may be able to get through today's technology. They'll be looking for neighborhood cameras, traffic cameras, commercial cameras, license plate readers, any hits of anything that shows an unusual vehicle pattern near that time window. Third, they'll have conducted, without a doubt, an immediate witness canvass in the area and a recanvass. Every camera, everywhere, every person that was within the sight line of Nancy's front door, anywhere outside the premises, in the streets, toll booths. So we can definitely assume they're going to talk to neighbors, workers, delivery drivers. Now, in abductions, the first canvass is fast, but the second one is often where you get more information because people probably remember something that they didn't think mattered, and all of a sudden you have new information. Fourth, and very important, because the FBI is known to be a tremendous resource in the area of getting digital footprints. So cell phone activity, any device activity, account logins, communications. If there's a medical device that produces data, depending on what's public and what's lawful to access, that's going to become part of the technical picture of the investigation. The fifth thing is crime scene processing. So now the residence becomes an all-important forensic starting point. So from entry points, cameras, any disturbance patterns, anything that's broken or out of place, trace evidence, and any biological evidence that needs to be collected. Sixth is tip prioritization. In a high-profile case like this, the public tips can become a flood of people calling in with all sorts of information. And a tip isn't always a good tip. It could also just be like noise or disinformation. The job of the investigator, a person taking the call, is to sort what may be significant or credible from rumors and hearsay. Okay, now let's talk about the sheriff's so far one and only press conference. You can be constrained by an investigation and still have the ability to communicate effectively. But there were statements attributed to the sheriff in multiple outlets, and I saw the press conference, that created frustration. Statements like the police don't know where she is and that they have no clue about key parts of the scenario, including how many people may have been involved. He even said he doesn't even know what the detectives know, and he's the sheriff. Now, it may be factually true. You may not have confirmed information, but you don't present that reality in a way that sounds uncontrolled and uninformed. During command level communication, the public hears tone, sometimes before they hear the content. And the sheriff was more excitable than professional. And there's a difference between we don't know anything and we can't disclose investigative details, but we are aggressively pursuing every lead with our partner agencies. See? One sounds like confusion, and the other sounds like professionalism. Phrasing I would use, and I've done press conferences in the past when I was a detective squad commander in the NYPD, but I would use calm, measured, accurate dissemination of information without giving anything away that would affect the investigation. I'd probably say something like, this is a sensitive, active investigation. Our detectives are working tirelessly on every lead, and we're coordinating closely with our federal partners. There are details I can't release at this time because doing so could compromise the case. What I can tell you is that we are treating this case with urgency, and we are asking the public for any assistance they can provide, no matter how small. Video, sightings, did you see anything that may be relative? Anything that may help narrow down the timeline? Any movements, any vehicles that looked out of place? No matter how small the information is, sometimes it could be a very big help to investigators. It's also how you preserve public confidence while staying focused on aggressive investigative tactics that are being employed 24/7 until Nancy's found. And I want to connect this to something because I've said it before. Poor communication doesn't automatically mean poor investigative work, but effective professional communication is a paramount part of leadership. If the public sees leadership as unsure, they start to speculate. And when the public starts speculating, investigators start chasing conspiracies. Now, I'm going to get to a more concerning issue for me, and that was releasing the crime scene. We have public reporting from multiple outlets that there was blood, or what appeared to be blood, observed at or near the home. We also have reporting that video showed a trail of blood and that a doorbell camera was missing or removed. I don't want to do some confirmatory forensic analysis from a podcast microphone, but if the reporters are saying it's blood, we could reasonably assume it's blood or a substance that appears to be blood. When public reporting indicates that the media were able to get close enough to the front door of the house of what was a crime scene, close enough to observe what appeared to be blood droplets at the entrance, it became blatant that that scene was no longer controlled or guarded by law enforcement. It creates a legitimate command level question about crime scene security and optics. Even if investigators fully process the scene, photographed, collected, swabbed, documented, everything, releasing the scene in a high-profile, active abduction case has consequences. First is the narrative control. The moment reporters see something visual, blood droplets, some type of disturbance on the property, missing equipment, your case narrative becomes a public spectacle. The second is the risk of misinformation is now made public. Now, every keyboard detective out there is going to start inventing timelines, suspects, motives, and that could be harmful to the case. These people that have true crime podcasts also have zero law enforcement experience. So they're not speaking from any level of experience. Third, there are always contamination and integrity concerns. Even if the evidence is already preserved, the public perception, and especially those of us in law enforcement and in the investigative arena, question why was the crime scene released if there's still biological evidence visible? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the case was mishandled. It just means that there were consequences that leadership obviously didn't anticipate. This is why I'm not criticizing the detectives doing the work. I'm just critiquing the leadership decisions that affected public confidence, possibly tip quality, certainly media escalation, and the overall perception of being in charge and being a leader. Now, here's the bottom line. The question isn't, did investigators do their job? The question is, was it the right decision at the right time to release or relinquish control of a crime scene in a case that's drawn national media attention, where officials were still asking the public for help and still withholding key details for investigative reasons? That's a fair question. It's a professional question. Here's what I want viewers to take away from my analysis. First, if you're local or if you have any direct information, whether it's something that you have like video from the area, even if it's just cars passing by during the time frame of the abduction, report it to the police immediately. Time matters in cases like this, especially with this particular case. And please do not post rumors or spread conspiracies. I say this especially to the folks out there that have true crime podcasts. You're not helping. You're hurting investigations. You're not experts. Don't be an armchair detective. And don't try to solve the case online. So I'm going to close with this. This is an active abduction investigation involving an 84-year-old woman. And the priority is her safe recovery. That's it. Let's get our home safe. Leadership communication matters. Crime scene management matters. As verified information changes in this case, I'll continue to keep you updated. Until then, remember, facts over fiction, professionalism over rumors, and evidence over conspiracies. I'm Mike Blangiforti, and this is Truth, Investigations, and Criminal Behavior. I'll see you next time.